Well, thanks. Welcome, everyone. My name is Rich Meade. I'm the VP of Product Development at Link Systems International. And I asked Lynn to join me today and share some of the experiences at Columbus State Community College with, kind of really quickly ramping up an online tutoring program at the college using the, peer tutors and professional tutors that they traditionally had on campus. And as Lynn and I were talking, he was kind of highlighting some of the things that, worked, some of the things that didn't work. And of course, they're using our platform Pisces. So I asked Lynn if he would be interested in sharing some of his experiences with other like-minded individuals. And he said, sure, he would love to. And so thanks, Lynn,
You're welcome.
for agreeing to do that. And if you want to just introduce yourself and your background a little bit, Lynn, I think that might help set the stage a little bit.
Okay. My name is Lynn Giese. I'm the supervisor for the college tutoring at Columbus State Community College. Where the college is located in downtown Columbus, Ohio. I've been working with tutoring and SI for the last 20 years, working with students, and with the pandemic, as all of us been in, having the experience of taking in-person tutoring to online in a very quick fashion. So that's what I'll be sharing today with everybody, kind of my experience, what I learned, and so forth.
And Lynn is a dog lover, as we can all hear in the background. I've been there before. I've got a chocolate lab at home, so I know what that's like. Lynn, I don't know if you wanted to kind of, give everybody a background of the college itself. I know there's some statistics up here, but maybe you could go into a little bit more detail.
Yeah, I'll share more of the background. As the slide shows here, our enrollment's between 25 to 30,000 students per semester, and we are located downtown Columbus. We have a focus of our career fields. We offer 2-year career programs in more than 50 areas of business, health, and public services, health services, engineering, technology, and facility maintenance, as well as transfer programs for students interested in completing their first 2 years of a bachelor's degree and then transferring to a 4-year degree. So just give you a background of kind of what tutoring looks like. Before the pandemic, we had decentralized tutoring in different locations. For example, we had the math tutoring in a different location. We had writing center / English in a different location on campus. Bio and physical science had a different area, and then the dev ed. So just to give you a picture that we had tutoring in many locations, which means the students would have to go to different locations, which we're going to talk about more of what we're doing in the future from here. And then we have our professional part-time tutors. We range between 100 to 150 tutors per semesters. And then with our student workers, we do have peer tutors and supplemental instruction leaders. And that usually ranges between anywhere from 25 to 40 to 50 students working. It just varies the semester. And then now that we're in the pandemic, it's a little bit different. As you may have experienced at your colleges, we definitely had a decrease in enrollment. I believe it was around 8 to 10%. So because of the pandemic, because many students didn't want to do everything online. It was a different experience and more challenging. But on one hand, even though our enrollment has decreased compared to other 2-year schools in Ohio, it hasn't been as bad, but it's still challenging. It's still, still a new environment and what we're working with pandemic and now coming out of the pandemic.
So Lynn, like when everything kind of shifted to remote learning, about how much time did you have to take your physical tutoring to online? I mean, I've heard some folks say they had only a few days, others had a few weeks. So I'm just curious how much time.
Yeah, we were given, the college kind of took like a week. We kind of said no classes for a week, and they gave us a week to move everything, which was a big shift, taking all the professional tutors, peer tutors, and SI leaders from from a in-person setting to remote setting. It was very challenging, stressful for me, especially because I was helping my director to get this all moved over. But yeah, we had a week, but it was still not an easy task.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some people on here saying a week. Man, you had plenty of time. We had 2 days. Because I've heard that, on Friday they said you got to be up and running by Monday, and so I feel for those folks. Also, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you guys have questions, I think there's a Q&A area and the chat. Either one, I'll make sure that I kind of monitor that, and we'll also save some time toward the end if anybody has any questions. But feel free to ask any questions that you have for Lynn, and I'm sure he'll do his best to address those.
All right.
So let me go to the next slide here. I'll talk a little bit about this. Just, Columbus State's, been using Pisces since they had to go remote with their online tutoring service. Really Pisces it's a central area that you can use to communicate with students, either for tutoring, for supplemental instruction. There's a variety of modes and features in it. So you can do one-on-one private tutoring, you can do group tutoring, there's breakout rooms, audio, video, there's a drop-off. There's a few like asynchronous modes for dropping off questions to a tutor or dropping off a paper for review at a later date. There's a referral module, so if instructors want to, refer a student to tutoring, they can refer them to your own tutors using Pisces, or they can refer them to our online tutoring service called NetTutor if you're using that as well. And I think the biggest thing, and Lynn, you'll probably talk about this later, I know you will, is reports. Just usage data and reports, and kind of what actions you can take by getting that visibility into the usage data. But that's all I'll say about Pisces. I really want this to be about, Lynn and his experiences at Columbus State, but I felt you kind of had to have a background, I think, in the platform that they're using.
All right.
So Lynn and I go way back, right? Since
Yeah.
2016. They have been offering NetTutor previously. They had great on-campus support services, academic support services for students. They saw the need to have some supplemental support in an online environment. Lynn, you guys are a community college. There's commuter students, right? Students that are working full time.
Yeah, we have all commuter students. We have no, like in-housing or anything. So everybody's a commuter.
Right. So, that by nature of that, you have students that might be going to class during the day and then go right to work, and maybe they have family obligations, things like that. So they felt it was helpful to have and necessary to have a supplemental online tutoring program to help during those off hours when their campus based learning center isn't open, or maybe even in some subject areas that aren't currently covered because you just haven't been able to find the right people yet. Real quick question. So you offer no in-person tutoring options at all? That's for you, Lynn. And I think that answer is no.
During the pandemic or before?
Doesn't really say. I think it might be like
during the pandemic, we had no in-person tutoring. This last semester, we just started doing a minimum by appointment only in-person tutoring, which now we're ramping up slowly for next semester, and then hopefully fall will be fully operational again. I hope I answered the question. If not, please ask whoever asked the question to clarify, and I'll clarify the answer.
Well, I said thank you, so I think you answered it. Okay. So that's great. Lots of tutoring sessions conducted since then, and you can see even since June of 2020 when you guys implemented your online program, 6,700 tutoring sessions in 19 months and almost 14,000 hours of tutoring. Great job, putting that together and also, promoting it amongst the students. I know a lot of times, you build it and they don't come. So I think you guys have been doing a really good job of promoting the services that you're offering, especially with online tutoring. And, there's a little snapshot here. This is kind of what it looks like because they have Pisces and NetTutor. Students will go in, they can see Pisces at the top. So what we really want to do is drive students to the, campus faculty and staff first, and, get that support they need either through their peer tutors or professional tutors that it has on staff. And then if they need help after hours or on the weekends, or like I said, in subject areas that maybe Lynn's team can't cover, then students have the option to go to NetTutor. But by virtue of how we have it set up for the students' experience, we want to drive them to your tutors first.
Yeah, and I could just share a little bit what we did to help drive that force a little bit for the students. We do have everything listed on our website, our tutoring website, that shows our online options, so they would have an opportunity to see the steps and directions to go to the online tutoring for the Pisces, for the Columbus State professional and peer tutors working, as well as the NetTutor area. So we just really put it out there and promote it. And then we also use Starfish on our campus, so we use that a lot to promote our tutoring services, to remind students that it exists. And then if they need help, we also share that with students who may not be aware of the tutoring, so that they have that option as well.
Great, because that was the next question. What have been your best strategies for promoting online tutoring? So I think you covered that through having that website that, not only shares the information about where students can go to get tutoring, but also sets the expectations for what, for the tutoring sessions that they will soon join. So any other ideas for promoting it?
And then also I had a lot of this work that I've done with the online is I was very focused and detail oriented to write out directions, for example, specific directions for students to follow to go to the online tutoring. So we have that also on the website, as well as students may be asking for tutoring. So we put that information also on the early alert system, those directions, so that they know, to go into Blackboard, click on the course and so forth to get into NetTutor, because that's usually the first step. It's the most challenging for students, especially during the pandemic when everything's switched on them. So that is a big thing. I would strongly suggest, if you do it, you want to make sure you have your directions and everything set for people to know where it is and how to get there in general. And that would be very helpful.
Cool. Thanks, Lynn.
You're welcome.
So now we'll get into some of the things that I know that you wanted to share about what you learned. And the first was, either transitioning, your current tutors to, introducing them to online tutoring. You told me that, it was a mixed bag, right? It was
right.
Some tutors caught on pretty well and others not so much. So can you talk about that?
It's one of those things that I found that tutors that were less experienced with the technology, it was more challenging for them. So obviously, one way to alleviate that is definitely have good training, which we all have experienced. We didn't have enough time to really do good training. So if you're just starting with Pisces, I'd strongly suggest that you plan to train your tutors well on how to use the technology and how to troubleshoot, which will give them confidence with the technology part, because most of our tutors coming in, they do have the knowledge in the content area down, but that technology can get them very frustrated, especially if they're more of a seasoned tutor and less experienced with technology. So keep that in mind, where you may need to do more training for that.
Yeah, and if you're using Pisces, we'll help out with that too,
yeah.
Especially initially. I don't know how many trainings we did, but we did quite a few with various days.
Yeah, I think you did a couple for us. So then just to share what we did with those trainings, we have Blackboard, so I was able to put that on our Blackboard, kind of a Blackboard tutor training shell, so that as we started training tutors, they could always go back to that training to review stuff. And then when we hire new tutors, that's part of their training to go and watch those videos to learn about Pisces and how to manage it and how to use it. But I know I'm not real familiar with the other learning systems that are out there. I know there are a number, but that's definitely having it somewhere, maybe a SharePoint, somewhere where the tutors can get that information, even if they've gone through it once, but maybe need to go through it again.
I know it's what the fourth bullet here, but willing to learn. That was something that you were pretty.
Yeah, I've been, as I shared earlier with you folks, that I've been in the tutoring business, so to speak, for over 20 years, and I found that I'm always looking for tutors, be professional peer tutors or supplemental instruction as student leaders, to be individuals that are willing to grow and learn, follow directions, and being able to do what we expect our students to do is my philosophy, to learn and to grow and develop.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue into tutor training. I know you and I were talking about, the technical aspect, and I think, here, the bottom bullet, I think you pretty quickly realize that students don't have always, reliable hardware, technology, internet service, maybe all of the above.
Yeah.
So
and then what we did at our college during the pandemic, we were able to provide our students, because we knew this was an issue of technology and equipment, that we were able to provide them Chromebooks for those students who need that assistance. So we try to do additional stuff to help them.
I know some of the basic tutor training that you guys implement in face-to-face sessions sort of carries over into an online tutoring environment, right? Like there's little nuances for online tutoring with the technology piece, and if you're chatting back and forth with students, there's best practices for that, like don't use capital letters because it may seem like you're shouting at the student, but I like the way that you were telling me about how the tutors really engage the students and make sure that they understand what they've learned in that session, and that's just good to reinforce, I think, even in an online environment.
Yes. And especially, I found, especially because we didn't have time to do a lot of training, I just am reminded how valuable that training is in the beginning, to make sure that's done early, so that the tutors have that technical training as well as their tutor training to know how to be a good tutor, ask good questions, and working with their students, so that they make sure the students learn the content, and then check their understanding as they're learning to grow and develop. And then I'm mainly the main person, so I really didn't have anybody else to train, like to train the trainer, but obviously you want to do that very well. If you do have the manpower that's available to you to do that, definitely want to make sure they're trained to the level that you desire to have for your specific program to grow as you're anticipating it to grow.
And then you created some things and used some stuff that we had to sort of give tutors the ability to kind of get self-directed help, so they weren't constantly, I wouldn't say bugging you, but asking you questions. And
yeah. So what I did was, since this technology was new for me as well, and I had to learn the technology and then learn how to quickly train the technology and figure out what's working, what's not. So what I did was I used just basic documentation and files in my computer where I kept track of whatever our problem was on Pisces, and then how was it solved. So for example, if a student and a tutor's working and the tutor's having trouble to get the student connected to the audio video on the Pisces tutoring session, well, what are some steps that the tutor can take to help the student get that worked out? So one of the things that's normally it can happen is there's a pop-up blocker on the student's computer preventing it from popping up and working correctly. So the tutor will need to know how to guide the student in how to solve that problem. So what I did was I found specific directions, for example, online, and I saved them for how to turn off pop-up blockers in Google, for example. So that's an example of how I kept track of stuff to solve. So if something happened, I have it documented and I know where to go to get the information, either provide it to all the tutors through email or individual tutors asking for assistance. And ideally, I didn't have a chance to do this, but ideally it would have been great if I would have had the time to put some of these documents probably in either Blackboard or a SharePoint setting, so tutors could get to it, but the time factor can be a problem at times. And then there's also the knowledge base articles that is within the Pisces customer support. So if you go in there and you have an issue, you just type it in and it pops up articles to read, and that's very helpful. And I've given my the tutors would have access to that as well online. And then the videos, those are the training videos I believe you're referring to. So we have those online to help for training, so they'd have that reference. And the other thing we did that maybe is helpful, we actually had some, one of our colleagues that works a lot with students and mental health and things like that, did a little video of how to do self-care. So that was a part of the thing to help support the tutors, because as you know, it was very stressful with the pandemic, plus working from home and not seeing people. So that was something that we did a little extra, which we included also on our tutor training on our website on the Blackboard area, tutor training. So just to kind of think of that, of, how can you support your tutors dealing with the stress of, learning how to do something online and working with students and being stressed out, and how you can help them kind of learn how to handle that and manage that and have good mental health practices.
Yeah, and we learned a lot through this too, in terms of, how many students, to take your example, for instance, how many students, had pop-ups automatically blocked, and so, we added a feature in the platform so that if you did have it blocked, you could push this button will light up and you can push the button and get connected right away. So we learned a lot through that too. I didn't think that many students would have so many restrictions on their browsers, and some are probably just on by default. But we learned a lot, and we're able to help make the platform more easier to use for students to get them connected quicker. It kind of reminds me of when you buy a radio or some other electronic, and in the last pages of the manual it has like a troubleshooting guide, right? That kind of reminds me of something that you put together, Lynn. If this happens, try this. If that happens, if the red light's not on, check to see if it's plugged in first, right?
Yes.
You talk a little bit about, we've got a few minutes left, but talk a little bit about scheduling and some of the things you learned with appointment setting.
So real quick, because we were decentralized as a tutoring face-to-face, so when we switched from face-to-face to online, I still had some tutoring coordinators within those departments working to actually communicate with their potential tutors, find out their schedules and put the schedules together. And then I was able to then eventually put the schedule up on the Pisces platform. When students come in, they'll see the availability of a tutor. So we had that going on. And then what we have also through the Pisces program is the scheduling tool, where the actual tutor could put in their schedule and have a combination of one-on-one appointments or drop-in hours. So that's what this is about, where a tutor could go set that up, and then a student could select their tutor to work with at that certain day and time in that course. So we've used this scheduling tool, and it seems like some tutors and students like it. Some still like the drop-in, so it can help meet different needs.
Yeah, there was one key thing that I remember you and I talking about that you learned from from all of this scheduling and, just managing an online tutoring program is that it's a full-time job, right? It's kind of difficult for
Yes.
one person to manage both your on-campus and remote online tutoring.
Yes.
And I think on the last slide here, that first bullet point, I think, was a key takeaway for you in the last year and a half, couple of years,
Yeah, it's
right?
just you got to have that commitment of your college to support the time, the money, the manpower to support an online tutoring area. It's definitely you have to have all the parts to work together for success.
And then one thing we didn't talk about, but it is on one of the lessons learned, is managing the Dropin Hours, right? So not only just the appointments, the schedule of availability for students to schedule appointments, but you are also offering not only appointments, but drop-in too, right? Simultaneously.
Yes. Yes. So that was where we would have online under our tutoring website information about the tutoring hours on there, as well as on the Pisces. When students click in the Pisces and click on the course content, they would see when tutors are available, and then right below they'll see a room that's available, and they click on it, and then they see a drop-in tutor available ready to work.
And then finally, I think, one of the other lessons is, being able to track usage data. And I know you guys have someone in the institutional research department that you work pretty closely with, and he pulls a lot of the reports and data out of Pisces, right? And that there's some success rate, I think, data or reporting that happens. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, we keep track of the actual number of tutoring students going to tutoring, how many tutoring sessions they are having, and then we do the normal standard student success rates, comparing the students who go to tutoring and who didn't in that course, so that we have that information, as well as the retention data, students that are persistent from semester to semester and then year to year is how that's set up.
Cool. Well, I just want to thank you again, Lynn, for sharing your experiences, and maybe this was reinforcement for others to know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
Others may have just picked up on a couple of key pieces of information that maybe you can bring back to your learning center or your college, just to help improve your own online tutoring program. Because I think a lot of schools that I've talked to, and Lynn, I think you guys are up in the air. It just goes with that first bullet. If there's a commitment from the college, to have like a ongoing presence of your tutors online. I think students have enjoyed it, and maybe there's a convenience factor there. Maybe there's a need because you do have a high population of commuter students. But that's to be determined. You have to have the commitment, time, the money, manpower, right, to continue it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming to learn more about this. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Lynn. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Everyone have a great rest of your day and an awesome weekend.